Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders is a challenge. So is traffic in Marysville and Yuba County. That's why we're co-sponsoring this live stream from the Marysville Traffic Town Hall. We hope to learn how city, county, and state Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders is a challenge. So is traffic in Marysville and Yuba County. That's why we're co-sponsoring this live stream from the Marysville Traffic Town Hall. We hope to learn how city, county, and state can address today's issues and plan now to deal with tomorrow's traffic. Caring for elders, or even yourself, has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of
Test. Well, then the special meeting of the Marysville City Council come to order. Madam Clerk, wherever you are, roll call.
Councilmember Belza?
Here.
Councilmember Gilchrist?
Here.
Councilmember Hudson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Betticavoli?
Here.
And Mayor Branscombe.
Okay, I think we're through the formalities. We needed to do the roll call, and that is because this is considered a special meeting of council. We don't want to get in trouble with Mr. Brown. So thank you, everybody, for coming to what I think is our first town hall, at least our first town hall with this council. And I want to thank council for coming up with this idea. I'm not going to give any particular council member credit because they might regret that later. I am Jim Shadd, the city manager. If you don't know me, I was volunteered to MC this event, and so I did want to get just some thank yous out of the way. First of all, thank you 530 for letting us use your facility. It's a great facility and much appreciated. Second of all, I wanted to thank Ted Langdell and the sponsors for the live broadcast, Comfort Keepers of the Yuba-Sutter, Nevada County, and Plumas Lake Self-Storage. The live broadcast will be tonight, and then it will be rebroadcast. Make sure I get this right, sir, next Tuesday at 6 p.m. So if people haven't been able to come tonight, we'll have it available, or Ted will have it available at 6 o'clock next Tuesday. Also wanted to thank my staff. So got our chief and his lieutenant here, Chief Sachs, to help answer questions. We also have our Director of Public Works, Vincenzo Carrazza, and I did say that right. Our City Engineer, John Mallon, and we also have Dan Flores, who is going to be our Vanna White tonight, running the microphone around. We also have the master at the helm, Nicole Moe, our city clerk, and our Council, Brant Bortson. So thank you guys for being here. This meeting, we were having a town hall. We wanted a little less formal format. So that is the intention of having it here and having a less intimidating dais up here and me speaking out here in the audience. So we're intending to solicit your input. We want to hear input, and we want you to share information or share your concerns and ask questions. Tonight's first town hall topic is on streets and traffic. That has been an issue that has been brought up quite often within the city. I will say it's not unique to Marysville, but Marysville has some unique problems that perhaps other cities don't have, and I'm sure those topics will come up. I also want to let you know we brought some visual aids. You can see them up here. If you would like to look at those, be more than welcome to come up and look. We may use them to clarify things as we move forward, and we'll probably stick around a little bit after the meeting in case there's more questions and staff can interact with you. My thought tonight is I will kind of give a brief introduction, go over some of the points on both road conditions and traffic in the city of Marysville from my staff and I's perspective. We will then hand it over to our mayor and council members for some comments, opening comments on their part, and then we will move directly to questions from the audience. And we may, in those questions, defer to staff. As I mentioned, we have our directors here so that if there are more technical or more detailed questions, they can answer them. Some housekeeping. The usual, let's put our phones on silent. I would ask that we be respectable or respectful of other people's thoughts and comments. Sometimes these things can be somewhat emotional, but we want to be respectable. To make this as productive as possible, try and think of your question and be concise when you ask the question so that we can have a time-effective meeting. If your answers are complex, and I know you guys don't like hearing that it's not simple, but if they are complex, we may defer to staff, we may pull out the visual aids, or if they're extremely complex, we may ask to discuss that offline afterwards or at another time. We'll be taking notes as to whether we need to defer that, and we will contact you folks if we need to give further explanation. Hopefully not a lot of that. Raise your hand if you would like to speak. And as I mentioned, Dan will bring the microphone around to you so that you can either make your point or ask a question. Let's try and make this productive. And I'm not trying to sound like a school teacher, but I am sometimes. Let's try and be productive in problem solving, not confrontational. We want to come up with solutions for our traffic problems and our road condition problems, but it won't help if we're fighting with each other over it. And then another housekeeping thing is our clerk would like you to state your name, first and last. Do you need address? Just your first and last name, because she is recording the meeting, and that is a requirement of having such meeting. So that's the housekeeping. I'm going to move on into just an introduction of where I think we are with the two topics. So first of all, I see two separate but related issues. One is the city has traffic problems. That seems to be the biggest concern at this time. The other issue is our local roads are not in great shape. And that is not a unique problem to any city in California that I'm aware of. Every city that I know of has roads that need to be repaired and not enough funding to do so. So I'll start with road conditions. I just mentioned there's typically not enough money, not enough funding available to maintain all of the roads in a municipality's inventory. And that is our condition as well. We base our road repairs primarily on pavement condition indexes. And our city engineer has done that in the past, and we have an inventory of roads in their condition. So when we are looking at roads, we tend to look at what roads need to be repaired. Now that sounds simple, but there's another problem. So if we have a nice road that's in good shape, we may need to pay attention to that too, or it quickly becomes a bad road. And so we have to balance maintaining the decent roads so they last longer, as well as repairing the really bad ones so they are back into a decent condition. It's kind of like your car. You have to change the oil periodically to make the engine last longer. So that's how we look at roads. Condition, really bad, and there's an index. I would let John explain what those numbers mean, and I believe we have a graphic up here showing the roads and their conditions. And then weighing that against, hey, we don't want this road that's in decent condition to fall apart if we don't pay attention to it. So that's where we're at with roads. I was going to briefly go over some projects that we have on roads or streets. We recently reconstructed 5th Street, as you may know. That was funded through some transportation grant funding, state, local, federal funds through SACOG. That one is nearly complete. We're just basically walking through the punch list now. We also did a minor repave on 1st and B using some SB1 money. When we did that, we also put in diagonal parking to try and slow traffic down on 1st Street. We are waiting for funding to become available through a community block development grant, CDBG, through HUD, for a fairly large swath of neighborhood in East Marysville. It's like you have to wait till you get to the top of the list on that one, so we don't have a specific time frame on when we're going to reach the top of that list. That's roughly in between 12th and 17th Street and Ramirez and Covalad. So a fairly large area of neighborhood streets that we hope to get repaved through that project. The next target project is we're looking at East 22nd Street, doing some road reconstruction. That street is particularly bad from the Highway 20 going west, and we will be using some ARPA and SB1 funds to see how far we can get going west. We are also looking at some funding available through SACOG to enhance that project and possibly get us farther down towards Ramirez. Our new Public Works Director is working on that grant application as we speak. We are also looking at a SACOG grant, a different grant through SACOG for some enhancements on the D Street area and the downtown. That is more of a community development type grant, not a road repair type grant. Smaller project or smaller efforts. The courthouse is, the county is adding to the courthouse, and they're also revamping or adding a new building to the juvenile facility. And in conjunction with the county, we're hoping to reconstruct the roads in front of the courthouse as well as the juvenile facility. So those are a little bit smaller, but we're partnering with the county on that. And then we may do some smaller repaving projects if we can somehow justify that while we're repairing sewer lines that are in the right-of-way. Project that is up here, it is not our project. It is the Binney Junction projects. That's a Caltrans project, and I suspect that that project may be a topic of discussion tonight. There are some benefits to the project, but there are also some concerns that we as the city have on that project. So that's road condition. I'll talk a little bit about traffic and traffic circulation and the problems that we as a staff and council see along those lines. So traffic, I see there are two things. There are items that are within the city's control, and there are items that the city has minimal controls over. And namely, we have control over our local streets, but we do not have much control over Caltrans right-of-way, state right-of-way, Highways 20 and Highway 70. So what is the city going to do about it? Well, on the Highway 70 and 20, we have obviously been working with Caltrans to ask them how the issues arising from the congestion of those two highways can be mitigated. I know we're going to be scheduling a meeting with the CHP and Caltrans to attempt to get some support, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not optimistic that we'll get a lot of support from Caltrans or the CHP on those two freeways as far as congestion mitigation. So that leaves us with our local roads. And our local roads have several problems, some of them caused by the congestion, I guess a side effect of the congestion on the two freeways that run through our city. And the areas that I've heard the most complaints about are the area between 10th and 14th and D through H. A lot of cut through traffic in that area, speeding and stoplight running or stop sign running. The area around the high school is another one. Truck traffic coming in there, as well as people taking shortcuts through that area and speeding and running stop signs. 22nd, I mentioned we're working on some of those larger roads, such as 22nd. We see excessive speed on those roads. Some of that is probably because of the way the road's designed and how wide it is, and it presents itself as a thoroughfare rather than a neighborhood street. So how do we slow traffic down there? The types of problems I typically hear complaints on are the cut-through traffic, but more specifically speeding, running stop signs, and trucks diverting through town and not staying on the freeway or the highways. So some solutions just to kick this off. I want to hear from everybody else, and of course council is going to weigh in. We have increased enforcement. I know our chief and lieutenant have personally been out there enforcing traffic. We have some issues. We obviously have a manpower issue. We are a very small municipality. We have a small police force, but they have been actively out there enforcing traffic, primarily, well, I should say in those areas we're talking about. Truck traffic where it shouldn't be. Speeding, which we will probably talk about a little more, stop sign running, those typical infractions. We're working to clarify speed limits with our local judges, and our council just sent out yesterday a letter to our local judge telling him we intend to enforce the prima facie speed limits, which are 25, and we will be starting with warnings and then moving into violations or citations fairly quickly on that. There has been a problem in the past with interpretation of the law and whether prima facie speed limit can be enforced with radar without a speed survey. We are challenging that. We will probably invest in some more equipment for enforcement, which would be radar equipment. That will allow more officers to enforce. The idea is to direct traffic back onto the freeway. And if they choose to go through the neighborhoods, they need to obey the law. We will, Vincenzo will be looking at our signage. And though we don't believe we need to post signage for a residential 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, we will probably give the cut-through traffic the benefit of the doubt and post that at the entrances to those neighborhoods. Then we're going to be looking at a whole bunch of traffic calming solutions. Now, I have heard many people say, put a stop sign in. I was approached tonight already on stop signs. Stop signs may help, but they're not the only answer, and they're not the ultimate answer. So I am very happy to have Vincenzo on board because he has that background. We are talking about potential upgrades to traffic signals, crosswalks, beacons, stop signs, speed bumps, humps, tables, raised sidewalks, diagonal parking, roadway narrowing, road diets, and roundabouts. And that hopefully will be part of the discussion tonight. And I probably didn't mention all of the calming techniques that are out there, but we want to do this in a logical, smart manner that gets us the most bang for the buck. I do expect, and I've talked to Vincenzo about this, we will be looking to do some low-cost pilots. So before we invest a lot of money in a permanent solution, we may be able to do some temporary stuff, try it out, and if it works, then look towards a permanent solution. I have made traffic Vincenzo's top priority. So he will be deeply engrossed in that. We will also have the opportunity through our general plan to do a traffic circulation element, and we would certainly want to address these traffic problems in that general plan. And then last of all, one of the best parts about my interviews with Vincenzo when we were hiring him was he said he can get us grant money. We'll see how he does on that. But we will be more aggressively looking for grant money through SACOG and other sources. There is a lot of money out there at this point in time for this type of problem. Every day it seems like I see a new funding opportunity related to this. The challenge is writing a good proposal and getting the award because the grants are very competitive. I will finish up just saying there is no silver bullet to either of the problems, the road condition problem or the traffic problem. It's going to take a lot of little things and maybe a few big things to make a difference. but I can assure you we're in a position to start really pushing forward to get that done. I think you'll find out from the comments that council make is it's one of their top priorities as well, and it was on the top of our strategic planning discussions when we had that. So with that, I'm ready to turn it over to the mayor.
Thank you. First of all, my first visit to this beautiful facility. I am so impressed. We should do something like this again, Mr. City Manager. When we do, let's move the chairs closer. I feel remote. When you speak, don't have to be just questions. If you just want to shoot an opinion out that leads to discussion, whatever's on your mind. This is the reason for this gathering, to inspire more feedback from those who attend. Now, traffic. Traffic, along with a couple of other issues, has been one of my top priorities. What's the first step in solving a problem? It's recognizing you have it. Well, we know we have a problem here in Marysville. We know. But we need to spread the word. And how do problems get solved in a big way? Well, this problem is driven primarily by Marysville being the intersection of two state highways, Highway 70 north and south, Highway 20 east and west. They converge and intersect at 12th and B and 9th and E. And all points in between cut the city in half. 20 cuts the city in half east to west, 70 north to south along with the railroad tracks. It affects quality of life, and with the collateral effects of all that traffic and everybody being in a hurry and rushing through neighborhoods and on those highways, it creates a big safety problem. To really get significant help, Jim Shad spoke about reaching out to Caltrans and to Highway Patrol. This is a state issue. The state has decided that this will be an intersection. We're going to jam as much traffic as we possibly can through Marysville until something breaks. Well, we need to let them know it's broken. And so during the pendency of our litigation with Caltrans, I intend to launch, and hopefully, and I think we'll have a lot of support on the council, a public relations campaign that will reach out to our state representatives, James Gallagher, and who's our, Nielsen is still, yeah. Start with the state people, but we also have 50% of the money for the Binney Junction project is federal money. Our congressman, and we have two congressmen representing Yuba County, the new one, Kylie, and between the two of those, I think we can get some influence at the state level to help us solve this problem. But there are other problems I'm overlooking. I'm focused mainly right now on what's happening with the highway system. The highway system is choking Marysville. If you and the shortcuts that are taken, a lot of the problems in the neighborhoods are the shortcuts taken by people jumping off the highway system to get someplace a little faster. That's a heater. I go through Yuba City. Now, there are no shortcuts off of 20 or 99 in Yuba City. And go through Yuba City and drive through residential streets. You don't see people going 40 miles an hour as they do down D, E, F, and G, 22nd Street, Johnson Avenue, Ramirez Street, East 17th Street, and all those other streets in East and West Marysville that are overwhelmed. Anyway, I've probably spoken too long already. You know what's on my mind, and I'm very anxious to hear what's on your mind. Mr. Vice Mayor, do you have something to say?
I'm going to stay sitting down. I want to say this with a lot of meaning from my heart when I say this. We know the issues. We want to hear from you because there may be something we're missing, but we have a pretty good idea of the problems, especially the ones of us that have lived here almost forever. The roads, as we all know, are horrible, and they have been put off for probably the last 10 councils. I can tell you honestly, this council is taking it very seriously. It's pretty much been on the top of everybody's list of things that need to get done. One thing I'd like to say is, although we know the issues, you know, I think Jim touched on it, we don't have the funding for it. Marysville lives on grants. It's going to take us time to get grants. Now that we have Vincendo, hopefully he's going to be a piece of the magic bullet, along with Jim, who has done a really great job for us. Keep in mind when we get these grants, though, that there's a lot of restrictions. And so when you see something being fixed, it's kind of like, why in the heck is Marysville spending the money on that? Why on that street? Or why that curb? Or why those bicycle lines? It's because these grants come with restrictions. And many times there's only a few places that we can spend them. So when you're out there looking and wondering why in the heck we did something where we did, it was probably because the money was restricted, not because we thought it was some, you know, stupendous idea to do. Everything takes time. I'll finish with just saying, Brad and I have been here for 4 years, and hopefully the next 4 years it's starting to look like. And in 4 years, so many things are just starting to come together. So now that we have a council that's putting such an effort into traffic and roads, it's still going to take some time. And one last thing I do want to say, somebody responded to me when we put the 18th Street stop signs up, which I think there was 1 out of 100 that was upset with it. I really think that's all there was. But they asked why we didn't spend that money on fixing the roads. And I'll tell you why. A set of stop signs costs about as much to fill a couple potholes. So the signs got done. The potholes didn't at that point get filled. But anything that you have to offer to us, give it to us in a reasonable way that we can try and take it and run with it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight. I appreciate it, guys. Technical savviness I do not have. So when I got on the council 4 years ago, I'm just going to say roads were a big thing for me. You know, I've lived on East 22nd Street for the better part of 25 years. It is a busy expressway. Now, I also spent 20 plus years being on the fire department driving on these streets with rather expensive pieces of equipment. I, like our fellow police officers in the city of Marysville, we drive everywhere all over this place, and we know what it does to wear and tear on those publicly owned vehicles, but also in the fact that we know what it does to your guys' vehicles. I was pushing 4 years ago to start repairing roads, but then if you remember 2 years ago, we weren't even supposed to be out on the roads. And so city government, local government, federal government all kind of slowed down. In the past year and a half, we've done a lot in trying to get things taken care of on a macro and a micro level for the city of Marysville. Roads are an issue. They are very expensive. Even if we contract those out, we don't have enough money to do a complete street, much less part of a street. So I've also looked into ideas with the city manager and so forth for trying to find a road grinder that we could use and do some road repairs on our own. It's small, but it's something. The bigger picture with traffic flow, that is frustrating. It's just one of those things that I got the expressway. I drive down Ramirez every day. I work off of B Street. I see it happen all the time. Even the local traffic now is taking all the back roads, and the back roads are worse than the main roads. And it is frustrating. I wish we could do more, and I want to do more, because I'm more of a doer than a talker. And that is difficult when we have to be patient. When I have to be patient, going through this whole process of the minutia of funding, government, red tape, CEQA, all these type of things that we need to get approval before we just go cut a driveway or put a stop sign in, or in order to receive funding, we have to make sure that we cross all the T's and dot all the I's before we even start talking about doing speed bumps and stop signs. It's frustrating for me, especially because I want to see results. And I know it's just as frustrating for you guys that are out there. And I'm happy to have this opportunity in a low key, although I hate the lights. All right. But if you guys got questions, this is the time to ask them. You want to chime, kind of go from there. I mean, it's not quite as formal, even though it feels formal. I'd rather be down there with you guys. But thank you for coming tonight. Thank you, 530. Thank you for everybody that's making things happen. And I'm fully excited about the fact that the first time in years, especially since I've been on the council, we now have a full city staff at this particular juncture. I would like to have more, but currently we have a full city staff, and things can start getting done now that we have the people for the positions to make things happen. Vincenzo coming and being in Marysville here, moving his family here, living just down the street from me on East 22nd, and so forth. It's great to just get the team dialed and moving and working and kind of go from there. I do wish it would happen faster, trust me.
Can everybody hear me? Great. I want to say thanks again to the 530 Event Center for hosting this and contributing it to the evening. So it's really good and great to see our two supervisors out here too, Don Blazer and Gary Bradford. Thank you guys for coming and participating. Yeah, traffic is something that we talk about all the time. It's in the top 3 conversations that I have with folks in town and folks from out of town. Homelessness, traffic, the hotel. There's that list of what everybody's talking about, and we've already covered so much of the issues, the topic, and some of what we're doing as a city to try to resolve some of these things. But I'd recap on just a couple things, talking about the grant funding. California is full of cities with banged up roads just like ours. And so that process of going after that funding is very, very highly competitive. And so patience is frustrating to have to develop, but unfortunately for these processes, it is part of what we have to have is patience. And it's disappointing when you put in for a grant. We've seen this happen on a couple park grants and some other things. You put in, you get all excited, you get a bunch of community input, and everybody's riled up, and then the grant didn't come through, we didn't get it, and there's a big letdown. And you have to come together as a community to keep hope and motivation to continue to press towards fixing these things and going after the next round of grant funding, the next round of grant funding. In saying that, and I mentioned our supervisors for a reason here, they might not like me for saying this or suggesting this, but as much as we're Marysville's residents, we're also residents of Yuba County, right? And there's some pretty heavy impacts that have happened on some of Marysville's streets, Ramirez being one of them in particular, but we have a lot of farm equipment that moves in and out of town that nobody talks about. During the harvest season, the planting season, there's big tractors and big equipment and trucks that are moving in that's related to that. And the county receives property tax income off of that equipment that's registered as Yuba County equipment. They receive a portion of that. So as we go in to apply for those grants and try to get some of that funding, maybe there's a partnership that can be discussed between the city and the county as to helping out a little bit with some of those related areas that you know, when you're running a combine down a residential street, that creates a lot of damage. So nonetheless, there may be an avenue there for future discussion. But, you know, when you look at this map up here, there's a lot of red, orange, and yellow. And there's some green, but there's a lot of red, orange, and yellow. And you go, okay, well, you know, where do you start? And so for me, it's like, try to identify the thing that's going to have the greatest impact on that's going to benefit and have the greatest impact for the community as a whole. This is about a year and a half ago, I think. Our city manager, Jim, and I were in the pickup truck, and we were talking about streets, and we were looking at some different things, and I said, have you seen the intersection of 22nd and Highway 20 yet? And he goes, no, I don't think I have. And so we drove over there, and I went crossways on the frontage road across that intersection, and I think I had to put it in four-wheel drive in order to get from one side to the next side. And so you can identify some of these areas that just have massive traffic flow that are coming on and off Highway 20, and those are good places to start. But I also am conscientious and very conscientious in a lot of these neighborhoods that are, especially like the ones that are fronting Highway 20, Harris Street, and some of those others that I know when I was walking during the campaign that have practically turned to gravel, you know. And so there's just so much to do and so much to tackle, but we're pursuing it heavily. So that's all I have to say.
All right. I think our city manager and mayor and our fellow council have done an outstanding job bringing us up to what we already know. And so I want to open it up to you guys. I want to hear from you. There are two things I will add, though, that I didn't hear, and that is about riding a bike or walking in this community. So I've been riding my bike around town lately. It's terrifying. And we have a planning commissioner, Mr. Ben Deal, who, thank goodness, is in the audience, who rides his bike as well. And you really have to plan ahead to make sure that you make your destination. It's terrifying. Good news is the state of California is part of the best grant opportunities is in bike and pedestrian connectability. I'm going to leave it at that because I really want to hear from you, but I don't recommend riding a bike here, and you know, unless, you know. So I'm going to leave it at that. The other thing that just came into the email today is Caltrans has a workshop on November 28th. This is a new abbreviation we all get to learn. RCH2B. This is Highways to Boulevards. Doesn't that sound exciting? I am all over it. We're all over it. It's really exciting. This just came up today in the email. So I'm going to leave it at that because I want to hear from you. We want to hear from you. Done. Thank you for coming.
Someone be brave and raise your hand and say something. There you go.
Where's the hand? Oh, okay.
Again, questions, ideas, complaints, everything.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Russell. I live on East 17th Street across from the high school. One big question I have is when they're coming from on Highway 70, and then they're going to be constructing a new underpass, which is supposed to take 2 years. So where are those trucks, cars? They're going to come down around the Little League Park. It's already dangerous when Little League's in session. And they come around. Some of them go, Yuba Street is supposedly a truck stop. I mean a truck pass. But many times they go down to Ramirez and then to take a right. But if they do go on Yuba Street, then what? It gets down to Highway 20. You can't get on. I mean, I live there in a car. It's horrible. I have to go over to the stoplight. And if school is in session, it's lined up sometimes from 12th Street all the way almost back to 17th. And cars going here, there, and everywhere. You get all those trucks in there and they're impatient. My question is, what's going to happen? Plus now with the apartments going in, that adds how many cars? I'm scared. Hi, my neighbor is too. Anyway, what is the plan for that? And then when they get the two highways hit together and they go down, virtually most people are turning on, 9th. As far as you can see, it's cars and trucks wrapped clear around down to like Carl's Jr. I mean, I know everyone's aware of that, but it's bad.
Mr. Shad, Vice Mayor, and I have been in meetings with Caltrans, and my recollection is they said they're going to keep traffic going both ways on 70 the entire time, and I don't believe it. So
no,
I think,
because there are accidents on there all the time.
And we have yet to receive from Caltrans a plan. Am I correct that we have yet to receive a plan from Caltrans on traffic circulation during construction? So your fear is justified, and I share it with you, and we're trying to get an answer. We haven't got it yet.
One of the other points that you made there, Marilyn, was about 9th and B. And I have been fighting about 9th and B from the day I got on the council. I'm not making an excuse. I'm going to tell you what we've been told. It's in the next project. Then it's in the next project. Then it's in the next project. I think most of you probably know that we're in a lawsuit with Caltrans. And we won't go into the specifics of it, but I can tell you that is one of the issues of the discussions that the mayor and Jim and myself have had repeatedly.
Caltrans, on the 9th and B question real quickly, if I could. 9th and B, it should have been part of this project. But look at the real problem after that. The 9th Street between B and E, they line up in one line, and even if you solve the 9th and B problem, you're still going to have a backup because only the left lane can get into the two left turn lanes. So Caltrans, and I want to ask their leadership this question. Caltrans, do you have plans to widen 9th Street? And how the heck are you going to do it? I think it's a legitimate concern, and I'll leave it there. You had a question. I'm sorry.
My name is Barbara Brown. I live at Jacob's Place in East Marysville. Oh, what am I doing wrong? Oh, my name is Barbara Brown. I live at Jacob's Place in East Marysville. My question is...
Barbara, we can't hear you.
Oh,
put it right up next to your mouth.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay. At a previous meeting that I was at, the idea of getting the highway patrol to patrol in our city, since we're all state highways that go through there, it would free up our police so that they could do more work for the city. And why do they not have something to do with our highways in our city?
So that was one of the things that Mr. Shad said, that we're going to meet with Highway Patrol in the very near future to see what their potential participation can be to assist Marysville PD in some of that issues. Because, I mean, I'd love to have more officers on the street. I'd also like to have more things, but I'm not 100% sure what they're going to be able to do for us until that conversation's had with the captain of CHP. And going back to Marilyn's question, I mean, I agree. I mean, a plan based upon hope is a frustrating plan. It's not even a plan. And because of the fact that Caltrans has not shared with us anything beyond the conceptual idea of what this corridor is supposed to look like, it's going to take years to do this project, and they've talked nothing to us about collateral traffic, on how they may or may not be able to assist us, or how we can even plan for collateral traffic, and that is upsettingly frustrating. So I wish that we could have a definitive answer for you on that, but we are trying all options, and our staff is trying all options with trying to get an understanding what other resources we can use during this potential time and the current time that we're working with right now.
Okay. We have a question over here.
Hi, my name is Peggy Failert, and I actually live on 11th Street and Orange Alley. Everybody knows that that's the shortcut to Starbucks. Now, I've been coming to city council meetings, and this has been deferred to the staff for several months now. Where are we at on putting a wall across Orange Alley? And now they've broken ground on the car wash / laundromat / convenience mart, and there's going to be more traffic. I have a picture from last Thursday that I sent to the mayor and I sent to the Appeal Democrat. They were lined up at both ends trying to get into Starbucks. I couldn't drive my car. I couldn't get it out of my garage.
Mr. City Manager, you've had some thoughts on this. You know, I've discussed them. I'm in favor of putting I would block the alley. That said, I've seen the plans for the car wash. That car wash is going to be situated, it's going to be on the north portion of that piece of property. And that means, and the exit is going to be towards your property. And we know what car washes sound like at the exit. It makes this heating system sound like nothing. And it's going to be a problem. It's a commercially zoned area, and the Starbucks is there, and the approvals have already been granted for the car wash and the development of that property. And I don't know, even if a barrier is placed in Orange Alley, if that is going to solve all your problems. I'm concerned for that. I don't want to make promises I can't keep. I can share the concern. I understand your problem, and it's real. There we are. You can see right there. I wish I had my pointer with me. It's going to be a real problem.
Hold on.
I'm going to let me hold on 1 minute here. It sounds like it's a big problem with an easy solution. It's a big problem with barely a solution if we can find it. It seems like, oh yeah, we don't like the traffic there, we'll go block off the alley. One of the words that the mayor used that I'm going to maybe change a little bit is the approval on that project there. That project didn't take much of an approval at all because of the zoning and what was going in the project. It automatically fit right there. So my heart goes out for what you have to go through, but at this point, there's not going to be an easy solution to just say, we're going to block off the street and make a few happy and make a few mad. So we will look into it. But at this point right now, there is not an easy solution for that spot.
Can I speak now? As you can see in that Starbucks driveway, it is not. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Dennis Failert. I live on 11th Street there. You can see that the Starbucks driveway is too narrow. I don't know who allowed that. But one person in the city council, when we were doing the Zoom meetings during COVID, objected to this project. But it was voted through and ran through. Just nobody cared. Okay, now you're going to put on another car wash and convenience store there on the other side. Okay, we already got people, and I've lived there since 1993. And 11th Street has always been a drag strip. People turn up to try to go around. We talk about the city streets, but that's a drag strip on 11th Street. Every week there's an accident on 11th and F. Every week. Scared the crap out of my granddaughter the other night. I see them all the time. There is excessive amount of traffic, always has been, and it's gotten worse. There is no stop sign there on 11th Street coming up the alley, and they are alleys. They're not streets. I don't know whoever named them streets. You measure them out, it's an alley. You don't put telephone poles in streets. But somebody allowed that Starbucks driveway to be that way. And there's where all that traffic is going up there. They don't stop when they go on 11th Street to F Street. And the traffic coming down F Street, they have no stopping, nothing that keeps them from going too fast. It's going to be a big issue. Now they broke ground on that car wash. Let's do something about it before all that traffic creates another problem.
I have just one more thing. If we actually are able to block that off, that'll stop the unwanted truck traffic coming up 11th Street to deliver every night at Starbucks. It'll stop the unwanted traffic on the residential cutting through to go to Starbucks because they'll be forced to go all the way around to the front. That would cut down on residential traffic. Yeah, I don't want you to fix 11th Street because Orange Alley has been fixed. Did you know that from the exit of Starbucks to 11th Street, you can get up to 50 miles an hour? I've witnessed that. So leave 11th Street alone. Don't repave it. Put a blockade in. That'll force them to come all the way down to the highway and come across. Oh yes, and you know, this affects more than just my household. There's actually, across from my house is a studio apartment complex with 6 households. 4 out of these 6 households have very small children that they don't allow outside now because people make it a 2-way alley and come up on to their property. So it's more than just my convenience. It's a safety hazard, but it will stop residential cut-throughs because you can no longer cut through there. It was done further down on, I believe it's H Street. Let me see, F. Going on to Highway 20, you guys blocked that off, so there's no real reason why you can't block this one off as well.
Thank you. Any other comments?
What's on your mind? Well, I'll talk. There we go.
So I first have a question. My name's Kim McMillan. My first question that I have for you is there funding available for technology? I've lived in other cities and they utilize 311 app so people can report issues with streets and roadways and other conditions where you can check to see the status of the issue that you've reported. Here in the city, when I began reporting issues, I had to print off a form, fill out the form, scan the form, and send it over. I have no way of checking on the issue without calling in to check on the issue, whereas other cities I've lived in have apps available for you to check live to see the current status. So that's my first question, if there's funding available.
Real quick, Mr. Shad.
I too have lived in other cities that have had technology available for that. My last city that we implemented that a couple of years ago was the city of Fresno. The city of Fresno has 530,000 residents in comparison to our 12,000. We have funding that could be used for that technology, but that funding is available for a whole bunch of competitive interests. The software is not cheap to do that. I don't know if the city could support that burden in software. One thing I know that our community development director and I have talked about was, can we piggyback and use somebody else's software? And I hate to put the county on the spot, but we have been looking at potentially, can we utilize a larger entity's already available technology, if they have it, to do exactly what you're talking about. But it really comes down to, what are we going to spend money on technology-wise versus other priorities within the city.
And she needs that microphone back. And in addition to technology, and I like the idea of partnering with the county, whenever you add technology like that, you add staffing requirements, because responses don't get created by machines until we get artificial intelligence. So that's a staffing requirement in addition to the capital expenditure. You had another question or comment?
Yeah, thank you. I didn't know if there was grants available that was specifically to that, so that's where that question was going. So my other is more a comment, and it was related to the funding that the gentleman mentioned about pedestrian and bicycling. So I work from home now and take 2 to 3 walks a day. And let's not mention the tripping on the sidewalk that happens. But being on G Street, trying to cross over H or cross over F, cars don't stop. There's no stop signs. And so trying to get across there is next to impossible. You're waiting for there to be no traffic to be able to cross. And then I can't allow my daughter to walk from the bus stop. I drive, I leave, I take meetings in the car on Bluetooth to go pick her up from the bus stop, because if I, as an adult, don't feel safe walking without being hit, surely my 13-year-old is not going to be walking as well.
I have a question for you. Are you in between 6th and 9th or 11th and 14th? Just for your own privacy, you don't have to answer.
It's fine. 12th and G.
Oh, okay.
So that is one of the very areas we have been talking about as far as traffic calming. And you mentioned pedestrian and bike activity. That is also one of the areas that has been a priority for the state and federal government. So we are trying to tailor our projects to make them more attractive to the state when we propose, and a lot of that is related to bike and pedestrian traffic. Particularly in that area, 10th to 14th, and then D through H roughly, is an area we want to focus on traffic calming so pedestrian and bicyclists have a safer environment in that area. And in talking to our public works director, that may be where we can do some pilot programs, temporary stuff, to see if we can slow that traffic down and make it more reasonable for bikes and pedestrians.
Other question?
Okay, thank you. This is Ben Deal, and since we're on the subject of bikes, I might as well bring up. I have a long list, but I'll just do one. Can you guys hear me? The whole list? Yeah, that'll be a while. I was just going to say that on the Caltrans project, when they do the sidewalk, or no one wants to ride a bike on the sidewalk. I know that Caltrans wants us to ride a bike on the sidewalk over there. You don't want to ride on the sidewalk. If they could do a protected, can you guys hear me? Okay, if they can do a protected bike lane, a lot more people would use it. No one's going to use it on a 30-mile-an-hour street with semis going by them. So if it's a protected lane, protected lanes are cheap. They're bollards or they're rumble strips or something that would keep traffic from getting to them. So just wanted to mention that. It's on the Caltrans project. Thank you.
So thanks, Ben. We were just commenting on the conceptual design that we have of the Highway 70 project, and there is some bike lanes on there except for the new underpass, which is the current can opener. But it's a good question. I mean, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that we're asking for protected lanes. So that's basically like a barrier between you and the traffic. I think you guys may know what it is. Maybe that's a good test bed for some of Jim's stuff too when he does temporary test on stuff. Bulb outs or curb extensions or stuff like pedestrians, et cetera, would help a lot. So thanks.
Ben, are you talking about protected bike lanes?
Yeah, so
those are they're numbered by protections. Vincenzo, do you know the numbering of a dedicated bike lane?
It's class 4.
Class 4.
Yes.
So you want to see a class 4 going under there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for the city of Sacramento, their traffic engineering department for a number of years. So we did traffic calming in Midtown, like Jim's presenting, and it made a huge difference in that area when I was working there. So thanks.
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody, and this is not to discourage anybody, but as I mentioned earlier, there are things that are within our control, and there are things that we have limited control over. So we can certainly push Caltrans to put in protected bike lanes, but that is going to be their project, and we can't force them to do that necessarily.
If I may, on that point, Caltrans, State of California, has made a policy decision, whether knowingly or unknowingly, to use Marysville as a crossroads for two very busy highways, two highways that are going to become much busier. If anybody's been east of Nevada City lately, there's significant highway improvement being done there, widening. 20 is going to become a much busier artery, and some of that will certainly redound on Marysville. 70, once you go from 2 lanes to 5 lanes coming into town, you induce additional traffic. We're going to see more traffic. Now, Marysville's being used. You know, if we're going to be used, we need some compensation to minimize the damage to the quality of life and to minimize the impact on safety. And you bring up an excellent point, and those are the kinds of things that Caltrans, the people we're talking to, they either don't have the discretion or don't care. I think they just simply don't have the discretion to deal with it. So we're going to have to go over their heads. We're going to have to go to state representatives. We're going to have to go to Congressman LaMalfa and soon-to-be Congressman-elect Kiley, because it's 50% federal money, as well as our state representatives, and push them hard on this issue. Make them aware of the fact that Marysville is probably the most besieged community of its type by state highway traffic. And the impacts on quality of life, safety, and what have you are profound and need to be dealt with. We don't have the money to do it. The state does.
My name is Michael Farini. I'm the planning commissioner at Yuba County for this city, and I'm baffled why we don't do more for the city from the county level, and I think that it is something that we need to have a serious discussion about. This is the county seat. This is the, this is your flagship of Yuba County, and it's a mess. And I think that our representatives should be at SACOG pushing very hard to get road projects and sustainability type projects put into place. Now, I want to let you guys know that you have at least 3 professional residents that are grant writers. They're professional grant writers. I don't know why they're not volunteering. I'm one of them. I'll volunteer. I'll write you a grant in a week, and I'll do it for $1. I don't care if we put out 20 grants and get 2. That's 2 more than we had. And sustainability, walkability, bikeability, those are big hot ticket issues right now in the state of California. We are moving, Caltrans is moving towards that. They're becoming less of a road agency and more of a sustainability agency. I should know, I work there. I see those jobs come open every single day. And just the fact that they're in Sacramento is the reason I don't apply. But I'll be honest with you, that's where we need to be focusing, because just like Ben said, I lived in Midtown in 1988 when I was in college. And there were 376 police calls at the intersection I lived at 24th and Q. In 2022, so far, there's been 0. Midtown did make a recovery because the first thing they did was they handled their traffic. And they handled it and they made it walkable and livable again. And when that happened, people wanted to live there. And they had mixed use zoning that they changed from just strict residential to mixed use so that they could get more restaurants, more bars, more cafes, more little mom and pop grocery stores. And all of a sudden people wanted to not live in Folsom anymore, or in Citrus Heights, or in Roseville, because that was the place to live. It still is. Look at the property value in Midtown. That's the same problem we have. We don't have enough people walking around and partaking in this beautiful historic community because we have such a rotten traffic problem. Our walkability score is so low, nobody wants to live here. Nobody wants to, our rents are low, our property values are low. They're coming up a little bit, but they are everywhere else too. So it's not just because Marysville, it's because everywhere it's getting unaffordable. And people are moving here, and there's new people here that I see all the time that care, that actually say the same exact things we're talking about today. Those are the folks that we need to engage as citizens to help us, sample the city citizens, see who's valuable, who can contribute. Some of us can write grants. Some of us are traffic planners. Some of us are environmental planners that know how to deal with CEQA. You want to understand CEQA, Brad? Come talk to me. I'll tell you all about it. I know, but I'm just saying, you want to know how to get around it? Talk to me. I know the ins and outs of it. So I know at least 4 other people in the community that know that stuff. So we're here. I'm on the planning commission now. I know Dawn is very passionate about this city and about the same problems we're talking about. Gary Bradford, Gary, raise your hand so everybody knows, is on the board at SACOG. He is a participating member, and so is our mayor, Chris Branscombe. So we have representation at SACOG, but we have to focus, we have to let SACOG know that we're dead serious about getting the state traffic under control and our problem resolved. I want to leave you with this, okay? Marysville, when I did my research for Segment 3 on Highway 70, I was the environmental planner that wrote that report. And I'm absolutely ashamed about it because it was just, I knew we were deceiving the public. I knew it. But I was just doing what I was told and what my job was. But Highway 70, there's so much that Butte County has pushed to get developed and to get through, like that corridor project, 5 lanes all the way to Marysville. That's what it's going to be. We're the victims of that, and we're not participating in that. I'm starting to see more and more people show up at city council meetings, and that's great. Citizens need to get involved. There's no reason why Kelly and I can't grab some really cool paint and go do some artist crosswalks in our neighborhoods. We just need, a public director that's going to let us do that, or whoever in the city is going to let us do that kind of stuff. We're willing to do what it takes, but we need some resolution. So SACOG needs to understand that we're dead serious about this. And, even though we're only 12,000 people, we have horrible air quality, some of the worst in the state. We're compared to LA and San Francisco. And our noise quality is horrible. So we have legitimate, we're a disadvantaged community, legally and technically. So we can leverage that and try to get some funds. Anyways, that's about all I got. I appreciate it. Thank you for this tonight.
Further to that, in our conversations with the senior executives at Caltrans District 3, I asked them about the proposal by the county to connect 70 and 20. starting at Plants Road off of 20 and connecting with 70 at Earl Road. And I approached him with the idea that that would be a wonderful thing, not only for the county, but for Marysville. County, it could enhance some development in the eastern part of the county, and it would take an enormous amount of pressure off of traffic coming through Marysville. It's not a complete bypass, but it's a start. His response was, that'll never happen. He said it'll never happen because of the senior leadership at Caltrans, and he said SACOG would never approve that. And I'm also with Gary on the board there, and we had a brief conversation, and he's more hopeful than I am, and I'm happy about that because we are going to be pushing some ideas at SACOG. As I've been attending meetings lately, I've been accompanied by Mr. Dan Flores, head of economic development, and I understand Vincenzo will be accompanying from now on so that we can have a broader front at SACOG. Again, early returns are not positive. The SACOG and state leadership wants every community to grow only within its existing boundaries. But we have a different problem. Our existing boundaries are defined by levees. We can't spread out, and we've got 2 state highways. I understand the numbers, 80,000 unique transits a day on a busy weekday. And we're about to have Costco, which I very much support. And that's going to probably draw another 3,000 round trips, meaning 6,000 unique transits through Marysville for Costco traffic. So this is going to get worse, and this is the time to raise hell. And it's appropriate. I mean, we'll do it in a statesman-like fashion, but it needs to be done. We've got a big problem here. It's a huge problem for the city. It's a problem for Yuba County. And it needs to be addressed. We can't be the example on the dirty end of the stick and just deal with it, grin and bear it. This is the time to make a lot of noise, and we'll be starting that. I've drafted a petition a couple months ago to circulate on this topic, and it may take a petition. I want to raise the public, the council across the board wants to raise the public profile of this problem and make it political. It has to be political. That's our solution, and you don't get action without a lot of people paying attention and joining in the effort.
My name is Linda Alexander. I live off East 22nd and Chime, and I know that my neighborhood is part of the people that contribute to the extra traffic around Marysville High School because we can't get out on Highway 20 to come into town because of all the traffic coming down from Grass Valley. I see this being a bigger concern when they start doing construction on the new bypass or the new construction by the high school for the new highway. And I just kind of wonder what consideration there's being done to Highway 20 that feeds in from Grass Valley.
All I know is that Highway 20 is being enhanced all the way up to Highway 80. And it's being done, there's a significant project east of Nevada City. And Nevada City is, of course, 4 lanes. So I presume there's an endeavor to move that to 4 lanes. And so I don't expect less traffic. Also in that neighborhood, I asked senior executives at Caltrans, at what point do you put up sound barriers when you have so much traffic going by? When Highway 20, you don't have to go back that many years, and there wasn't that much traffic to where the sound was an awful burden. But right now, particularly with all the truck traffic, that whole neighborhood, starting at the levee all the way to Covalad, there should be sound barriers, and they should be funded by the entity that has made the traffic more attractive to pass through there, Caltrans, the state of California.
Yeah, I will add that there's been a number of requests from folks to Caltrans, but just in regards to that intersection at Highway 20 and 22nd Street for a stoplight for a traffic signal, which I'm in agreement. I think that it would be a good thing because I use that corridor a fair amount. I've got family that lives in the foothills, and I come and I have to fight traffic both ways to make that left-hand turn, and it's daunting at times. But you know, it's another one of those items that is outside of our immediate control because it's a Caltrans right-of-way, but a collaborated effort to communicate with Caltrans and ask to do a study on what a signal light would do there, I think is warranted now, especially with the improvements that have happened with Highway 20 from Grass Valley to Marysville. That traffic flow has increased dramatically over the last 5 years. And so that's something that definitely I think we should assimilate on and pursue Caltrans on.
Go ahead.
I want to give you an idea how Caltrans thinks, because all of the things that you guys are bringing up, we agree with you. 20 and 22nd needs a stoplight, as many of us saw, especially with a disaster, how bad it was to get out of there. But let me give you, I don't even know if I can explain this rationale, but let me tell you how I might need the mayor's help on this one even. So when we kept saying that this section, this new section of Highway 70, is going to increase the traffic, they said it absolutely will not increase the traffic. We said, well, of course it will. They said, no, it will not. Now, here's their rationale. If I can make this clear, I might need your help on it. I think there were 6 different projects. How many projects coming down? 7. 7 different projects coming down the highway. So if 6 of them are done, that has created the additional traffic. When you do the 7th one, which is Marysville, they say it's not increasing your traffic. It's already been increased by the other 7. So in comparison to the other 7, there's no additional traffic. I am not kidding you. If you followed that, what I just said, you followed it better than the mayor and I did the first time we heard it. But that's how they think and rationalize things, which is just BS.
The concept, and I think I first heard this term from Mr. Farini, is induced demand. You make something more attractive, people show up. Traffic will show up, and it'll show up in droves.
I wanted to just interject here, and first of all, Mr. Farini and I don't always see eye to eye, but there are things in this discussion that we definitely do. So I'm an outsider, and so I have some disadvantages, but some advantages. And what I see is, in order to create economic prosperity within Marysville, we do have to have a community that people want to live in. And that includes walking and biking and active transportation. That is how we're going to, one of the components for economic prosperity. And therefore, we need to resolve our traffic problems. I've said this a couple of times. The ability to affect what Caltrans does on their right-of-ways is limited for us. And I think we've moved in that direction. We have had a council that's been very aggressive with confronting Caltrans on this, and I don't think we're done there yet. I also mentioned, or Mike mentioned, SACOG. I noticed that when I got here, we had a minimal presence at SACOG. The city of Marysville had a minimal presence at SACOG. The county participated. So we purposely have made a bigger presence at SACOG. And not just our political figures, but our technical folks too. Because no offense to the mayor, but he doesn't understand all the technical jargon that the folks at Caltrans or SACOG throw out there. We now have 2 technical staff going there so that they can communicate and find those grant opportunities. So what does that mean? Well, Mike is absolutely right. The grants are focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, active transportation, safe routes to school, divided communities, and so on and so on. So we could say those don't fit our model, but it's our job, particularly my staff's job, to figure out how to tailor our proposals to fit into those molds, and I think we can do that. There was a mention of a project here, kind of hinted at it, that wasn't a great project, that was an ATP project. We can do better than that. We can propose projects that get this community where they need to be. And so the problems I see are related to the highway, but the ones we have control over are those neighborhood projects that are conducive to the very grants we're talking about. How do we focus our energy and SACOG's funding, which they're very friendly to us right now, all the way at the top level? How do we get what we need as a community in our neighborhoods, in our business districts? How do we safely get people across those state right-of-ways? That's what we need to be focused on with SACOG. I think the political issue of having the 2 highways run through our city, that is going to be a huge challenge. We're not going to get a bypass tomorrow. That is millions, if not billions of dollars. But these folks are working on that. The mayor and vice mayor have been very diligent at working on that, and I expect they will continue to work on that large problem. In the meantime, I want to focus on what we can do with funding opportunities and what we can do with practical solutions for our problems within the community. So I think we have those 2 problems to deal with. The larger state problem, and then what we can do within our neighborhoods to make it a more livable place and attract people to the community that would otherwise not want to live here. So thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and we do have a divided community, divided by the highways. One thing I'd like to, now that Vincenzo's on board and we have more traffic expertise, I'd like to learn if there was ever a post-mortem done on the evacuation during the Oroville Dam emergency. I know my friend Helen Perkins here in the front row lives on East 22nd Street, and she told me for 2 hours she tried to get out of her driveway to exit Marysville and gave up. Nope, everybody's panicked, nobody's letting her in, and it was that kind of an atmosphere. And if everybody's trying to get from one side of town to the other, and the highways basically divided it, and people are in panic mode, filling up intersections, it could be a dangerous situation. And I think that's the kind of thing maybe you can get federal money for. I don't know. But we need to approach that and find out, because if something happened, and find out what can be done, because here we had a lesson learned. Everybody tried to get out of town and couldn't. And there are still threats similar to that threat. And we need to have a better plan, and it will not include just the roads we have now. It's going to have to include additional roads, and again, a good start would be that 20 to 70 connector that the county has proposed. And that should be a big part of the overall push for relief.
Hi, Joe Ybarra over here, and I want to thank you guys for all the efforts that you're making forward on trying to do the right thing for Marysville and getting the streets done. I know it takes a lot of time and effort away from your families, but I just want to let you know we appreciate you, excluding the new guy that just got hired, Public Works. I appreciate each and every one of you. One thing I do want to do, if I can back up, I know this Caltrain issue is a really big topic, but back to the lady who has a problem with the Starbucks. What is the procedures when we're in a C3 zoning piece of property, or the adjacent, when the permits are being applied, submitted the documents, and if it looks like a go-through project, it gets walked through, but are all the other property owners within a radius being informed of what's proposed and what's going on? Because it sounds like it hasn't in this situation.
I would suggest that we take that question to our Assistant Community Development Director, Christina Heredia. She could not make it tonight. She's ill. But I think the answer is it depends. The particular area we're talking about on Orange is a C3 zone property. And likely those owners of property have, by right, the ability to build things within certain parameters. And that is what our planning folks would look at when they're approving plans for the property. So we may have the ability to condition the property, we may not, depending on what they're asking to build. It's a commercial C3 zone, and that means it's intended for commercial property.
Thank you for that. I'm 100% with what you said, and I'm with that, but what I'm concerned with is we have a lot of vacant lots, the RDA lots that have been sold, and we just need to make sure the impact that's happening there, not get too overexcited on an empty lot with somebody who wants to put a building on something where it hasn't been in a while. I get that, but we just have to make sure that we're not violating somebody that's been in that property for.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not the expert on planning and zoning. That's why we hired Christina. And I think she's excellent at understanding those things. There is a process. If it's by right, it's a very short process. If it's a condition, it usually has to go through our planning commission. She may have administrative ability to do some small things, but the process would be, if it's a requirement to condition the property, it would go through the planning commission.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, who else has questions?
John Messick. I want to make a statement about the bypass deal there. I think we all can agree you're either going to have to go around Marysville or over it. But I think it would be best if the cities and counties and everybody got together and came up with the best plan. But what you guys can look at, and has been a concern of mine, is 22nd and Sampson Street. Can you pull that up on the deal? So that intersection is offset, and it's right there. You see how it kind of jogs, 22nd Street jogs? There's a stop sign at 22nd, but not Sampson. And there's a block wall there on that big house. So I've been, taking my kids to school forever, and actually even back in the 80s driving myself to school that way. So I was wondering if you could move the stop sign from the next one down there east to there. So it wouldn't add stop signs, but it would relocate that stop sign. So that make that a four-way stop. I know of at least one accident that's happened there, but trying to cross Sampson on 22nd Street, going to school when the traffic's going down Sampson at a fairly high rate of speed and hard to see. You have to get off over to the side to line up. So I have 15-year-old triplet boys that are going to be driving that next year every day to school. So it's my concern.
So our police chief just said that might be a good candidate. So we will take a look at that. I will say, though, 22nd in particular, we had significant discussion about 22nd. And I had mentioned earlier, stop signs aren't the only answer. Our new public works director is going to be working with our city engineer, and that is one of the grant opportunities we're looking at with SACOG to somehow make that street more neighborhood friendly.
and slow traffic down in that area. So we can look at a stop sign as, I guess, a immediate type of solution, but I would like to look at the whole 22nd from one end to the other and see what we can do to calm traffic down, because I think the problem is along the entire length of that street.
Jim.
John.
We actually have a map. Vincenzo has a map of 22nd Street with some of the solutions. And there's an example of it over here, but do you want to pull it up on the screen and show the roundabouts, et cetera, as options? There are also images showing what those roundabouts would look like. And that the East 22nd is a great location for that because they are so wide. Yeah, right? There used to be trees and things along that high school that really helped out with.
Stop the sound.
Yeah.
John, I just want to say I agree with you 100% on the intersection, because I drive it every morning when I go down East 22nd and Sampson right there, and I'm always doing a little edging out, trying to get around that block wall that has the trees that are overhanging it. And, you know, I spend more time on that corner talking to the cats sitting on the wall than I trying to make it safely cross. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because it is a frustration. It's just one of those things that unfortunately I got used to. I would love to see some change go on there. Thank you.
Yeah, John.
I did have one other comment too. I like the new stop sign there at the high school, but you think we could work with the high school when school gets out to let a bunch of kids cross and then stop them for a little bit, and let a bunch of kids cross and stop, because it's just a constant flow of kids walking across the street and backs traffic up forever.
You ever tried herding cats?
Did you hear me say I have 15-year-old triplet boys? I've been herding cats for 15 years.
Just getting started.
I'd like to speak up from, I'll change places here. I'll sit in the audience and say, I live on D Street, and the traffic on D, E, F, G, and H between 14th and 9th and 14th and 10th is out of hand. The speeds, I know coming down D Street where they're almost, well, there's no stop signs between 14th and 9th. And I've actually purchased a radar detector, a speed detector, and it's very accurate. $125, best $125 I've ever spent. And I've clocked cars going 50 miles an hour down that street all the time. And I know I'm not alone on D Street having that experience. I see it on E, F, G, and H all the time. I see it on East 17th. I'm just coming up with the streets where I can really notice it. That's a speedway between Ramirez and I don't even know where the next stop sign is. It's forever down there. And people just get in the habit of speeding. And I don't know if it's because there's so much highway traffic that uses East Marysville and West Marysville for shortcuts. They're all in a hurry, and they all speed. And maybe it creates other bad habits, but calming needs to be done. And I wanted to, again, speak up for my neighborhood and give a shout out to the other neighborhoods that suffer the same thing.
Hi, I'm Kelly Rich Creek, and I live in downtown Marysville off of 8th Street. And so I'm just going to focus on that neighborhood where the streets are inside the Caltrans highway. So you have E Street is on one side, and then the busy B Street, which comes off of 70. So we heard all the problem areas of cut-through traffic. What I would like to add to that is the cut-through traffic in central downtown area, because traffic is cutting from B over to E and E to B constantly. So from basically 8th Street, 7th Street, 6th Street, 5th Street, 4th Street, 3rd Street, cut through traffic. Maybe we have some solutions, some ideas to deter people from cutting through. I don't know if just lowering the speed limit. I know the state just goes at 25. I have been to other towns. I know in Grass Valley, or it was Nevada City, one of the two, I think it was Grass Valley, had a neighborhood program where the speed limit was 15 miles per hour. Maybe I can look up and see how those programs are done to help. But does anyone else have any ideas of how we can do some traffic calming in the downtown area? I walk a lot, and it is, even with, we need more crosswalks, more colorful crosswalks. And how do you slow down the speed? I'm on 4th Street. If you're on 4th Street and they see the green light on E Street and they're in downtown, they see that green light and they step on the gas to make that green light. And the crosswalks aren't even very well there. And I agree, I'll go out with Mike and paint if you want to let us paint some crosswalks down there and make them colorful and more appealing. But anyways, I'd like to hear, we have some experts in the room on some traffic calming measures that we could do in downtown. Thank you.
Can I answer your question for you, Kelly? 3 things. Raised crosswalks. Do we have an image? Vincenzo? An image of a raised crosswalk. Speed notification signs. So when someone's speeding, a little flashing light says this is the speed you're going. And as far as painting crosswalks and things like that, sure. But I highly recommend you hook up with Yuba-Sutter Arts and Culture when you do that. Just kidding. And you let us know. I'm just kidding.
Before
someone out there
Vincenzo
painting.
gets started, I just wanted to say, I'll interject again. The downtown area is a little bit different than the 14th Street area that we were talking about. And here's why I say that. The 14th Street area is residential. It's a residential neighborhood. And we don't have a huge need for business traffic in that area. Whereas the downtown area, if I have my way, we're intentionally trying to drive people into the downtown area to shop and be in that area. So the method needs to be different. We probably need to slow them down so they'll visit the stores, which is a whole separate topic, but I don't want to just eliminate traffic in the downtown area because we're really just trying to slow it down. Probably if we slow it down, they'll have a chance to read the signs on the stores and shop.
Mr. Farini, you want to shout out?
Scooters and stuff, but studies have shown that when you eliminate vehicles from an area and it becomes more walkable and calm, that people actually enjoy being there and they shop there more. If people are driving 40 miles an hour down D Street trying to get from B Street over to 3rd Street, on a regular basis, people don't want to walk there. It's irritating. It's hard to cross the crosswalks. So as far I know that there's a lot of there's merchants down there, and they care very much about getting traffic generated to their establishments. But it's the opposite of what you think. If you think that vehicle traffic is going to bring you business, it's absolutely been proven that it does not. If you want to increase business, what you do is you put tables and chairs out on streets and you make them walkable so that people can come there and socialize and be there and patronize every single store in that neighborhood. That's all I have. Thank you.
Jim, you want me to jump in? Yeah. So I think Michael, you mentioned something that was great. We had a trip down to San Jose and visit the Santana Row, and they had outdoor dining. It was blocked off to traffic. And that's actually one of the grants I'm working on in terms of having a community design. I think our general plan and the council's initiative is to get economic progress on D Street, and one of them is that walkability. So we're looking at like lighting, looking at things where you close off the street maybe at night, you know, or on weekends to encourage people to walk around, feel safe, go have a drink, go eat, go to a bar, that kind of walkability. So yes, the other question, I think, Kelly, you mentioned some suggestions. I think Councilor Gilchrist had mentioned a raised sidewalk. So this is a picture of a raised crosswalk. It acts as a nice speed hump for the vehicles to go over, and they do that every time. So it's very favorable to the pedestrians. We all know cars are supposed to yield to peds, right? But here, you're physically being bounced every time you cross the crosswalk. So the pedestrians don't have to yield. They just walk straight across. Like, you're not going down to the street level. You're actually walking at the sidewalk level, and the car has to go up. So that's one strategy, is to have an elevated crosswalk. Very, like, you're focusing on the pedestrian and not the cars. And then we even have another one. Bump outs is another good one, where you narrow the road. And already, I think on 5th Street, we have a lot of bump outs that you could do. You're decreasing your walking distance for the pedestrians, but the vehicles are getting a narrower, vision of that. One other thing that we could do, but it's not very popular with the vehicles, is what's called a diverter, a route diverter. John, you want to bring up the one? At 10th Street, we already have this concept, and I wanted to show you what this is. Basically, it's to redirect traffic. So here's an example that we already have that somebody had installed. 10th and Yuba. Yeah, you can't go straight through Yuba. You're diverted. And they also make variants where you can do diagonally. So going back to the downtown, if you want to stop traffic from cutting through on 3rd Street, you can divert it so it's not a straight east-west route. They do you got to go on 3rd Street, make a right, make a left, make a right, make a left. You can do that so that it's not a straight path for cut-through traffic. It's kind of meandering through. But then your vehicle, your bike and your peds, they have straight access. So that's another strategy where you can do is, after a while, people are going to I don't want to cut through here because I got to go make a left and right and left and right. I got to meander through downtown. They'll stay on the highway because it's a straighter route. That's another strategy. There's a lot of other ones, but if we wanted to do that in downtown, we can encourage walking and biking and less, driving through. That help? Okay.
And that's why we hired him.
Oh, you might as well hold on to it.
The crosswalk that you and Stuart had mentioned sounds like a really good solution for the downtown, because it doesn't take away from the people that want to drive and stop at the stores. They're still going to do that. It's only going to keep the people wanting to cut through, which they do. And I forgot to mention, we get a lot of truck semis. The trucks are still cutting through, so we do want to get our truck route signs, no truck signs up.
Okay.
I want to say that I appreciate these ideas as well. Just going back to the mayor, because I live not too far on 12th and G. And also, another idea is there are a lot of stops. I have a 4-way stop at 12th and G, and I reported 14 months ago that it needs to be painted. You can hardly even see that there's a stop sign. There was a tree that was blocking one of the stop signs. When I drop my daughter off at school in the morning, I park out front instead of the back. And I can sit there and watch cars. They don't even slow down at that stop sign. They just fly right through like the stop signs aren't even there. And it's a 4-way stop.
My name is Eric Royer, and I just wanted to say that if you think that island on 10th Street is preventing people from going north and south on Yuba, you're deluding yourself. People drive around that island all the time.
Let me remark to you on that, because my office is right there. I look at it every single day. Before that was there were more accidents than you can believe. We were running out the door literally 3, 4, 5 times a month. And it's not one of my favorite things right there, but I can tell you I don't think we've had an accident since that has been in there. And you're 100% right. People are cutting around it. But the improvement that it has done to that area, I'm sure you could ask the chief that the accidents that have been cut out from that piece is truly unbelievable.
And when they're cutting around that, they're doing it very carefully because they don't want to get arrested or pulled over, and they don't want anyone to see them do it. We've seen it. But again, you know, the accidents are minimized dramatically because of that action, even though it's annoying, but it works. I live on 1st and C Street, and of course it was recently repaved and restriped. Before that repaving, it was a freeway, and it was hell. When there is a lot of business, when there are people downtown shopping or going to the Sequan or Silver Dollar, the traffic is dramatically reduced. The traffic is consistent, but the speed is dramatically reduced because of the parking, 45-degree angle parking. Cars and trucks are sticking out, and people actually slow down. It is awesome, just so you know. It's one of the things that's working. So just wanted to put that out.
I wanted to say, too, that I'm kind of a person that likes to deal in facts. And while the comments have been made, our chief and his staff have been writing many of those down. And they have very good statistics on accidents and such in the neighborhood. And not that I'm saying anybody is embellishing, but I think the facts are what we need to use and the data that we have to do that. So as an example, on that Yuba Street median, it is not, I would not characterize it as preventing anybody from crossing that street. It's reducing the amount of people that cross that street. We always have somebody that won't follow the rules no matter what. So we are looking for not necessarily perfection, but a way to improve things. I was going to ask the mayor how much longer we might want to go, and I would also suggest that maybe we ask the audience if we're close to finishing this topic, what might be a topic for the next town hall. I have some ideas myself based on this meeting, but Mayor, where are you at? Are we wanting to go further?
I've gotten a couple signals from colleagues up here that maybe we've reached a saturation point. That said, this is a pressing topic that requires, for example, Hotel Marysville, very important. That's being worked, but community involvement at this stage isn't that critical. Ellis Lake's important. The B Street property is important. This one is something that this topic affects everybody in the city one way, shape, or another, one way, shape, or form. I'd like to keep this on the top of near the top of the list, open to other ideas for these forums. Again, if we have a forum, let's get everybody in closer. Let's turn off the air conditioning so we can hear each other, and maybe we won't need microphones.
So my suggestion was very close to the mayor's, and because of the conversation we heard here, one of my topics that I think might be useful is just what are we doing in the city to create economic prosperity, and what development do we have planned for the city? What questions do you folks have about that? I'm going to anybody have any suggestions or comments on that, raise your hand and I'll bring the mic over.
One might be, and Mr. Farini brought this up, how could the city and county work more closely together to improve the city, which is part of the county? And I know we have liaison meetings from time to time, but that was something that sparked my interest when he brought that up. And we can't, Marysville's 12,000 people. We've got a police force, for example, we've got a police force that a city of 12,000 people can afford. But we've got 80,000 unique transits through Marysville on these state highways. Huge challenge. We need help. And we're going to try to get it at the state, but cooperating in league with the county, I think we'll have a stronger voice. That said, I think these are, this is more informal than a regular council meeting. I would hope that we could do this again. I think the turnout is fabulous for a holiday week and the first try. Yeah. I'm thrilled to see 3 of our county supervisors here and some staff. And I'm happy to see the feedback from the citizens. We should have a punch list of issues that were brought up, and more formal responses at some point. Maybe another meeting. Maybe we do that in some other forum. But rather than things get lost, if there should be a punch list of the issues brought up and what the response is. If it's pending, that's fine. But nothing gets ignored.
So I know our Public Works Director has been taking notes. Our police chief has been taking notes. Our clerk has been taking notes. Hopefully we've got all of the comments and action items recorded. We're also getting a recording on this. If we have missed something or you are concerned we've missed something, please give us a call and let us know your concern. I did have 2 more things. Just how many, I didn't get a big response comment-wise, but how many by way of hand would be interested in understanding a little bit about what community development activity we have going on? Good. And then the other thing I want, the chief and his staff have been working diligently on traffic, and I'll have him give you some statistics quickly on what they've been doing.
Yeah, just real quick. So we had 14. Sorry about that. So since July 1st of 2022 until yesterday, we've had 14 special deployments through our traffic grants from Office of Traffic Safety above and beyond our normal traffic assignments for our patrol officers between calls for service. Out of those deployments and their hard work and efforts, they've conducted over 900 enforcement stops for various types of stops since then. They've issued about 470 citations out of those, because some of them aren't always, written citations. Stop signs is the most highly cited one. Out of that, additionally, speeding and the truck route. We did a couple deployments for the truck route and wrote over 30 citations for the big rigs off the truck route in that West Marysville area. Myself and Lieutenant Barber, I've already been to court 3 times, and I have 2 subpoenas on my desk now that I'm going to court on those as well. So there is a heightened enforcement in those areas and for those other primary collision factor related traffic. So that's a lot of traffic stops and a lot of enforcement with a small amount of people in a short period of time. So super proud of the work that they're doing, and we're going to keep it up, and I got good notes, and we'll keep after it.
Thank you, Chief. And I would ask if the council has any closing comments.
No, I just want to say thank you. I love seeing community participation and hearing what you guys have to say. Face to face is better. And I do like this informal setting. and not such a structured one. So I look forward to more of these, one side or the other. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I'm glad you guys came. Invite your friends. Next time, your neighbors. There's no 3-minute clock over there. This is the time.
This meeting's adjourned. Let's gather and mix with
Thank you,
each other.
folks.
Yeah, come and look at all these drawings.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders is a challenge. So is traffic in Marysville and Yuba County. That's why we're sponsoring this live stream from the Marysville Traffic Town Hall. We hope to learn how city, county, and state can address today's issues and plan now to deal with tomorrow's traffic. Caring for elders. Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties. Caring for elders is a challenge. So is traffic in Marysville and Yuba County. That's why we're co-sponsoring this live stream from the Marysville Traffic Town Hall. We hope to learn how city, county, and state can address today's issues and plan now to deal with tomorrow's traffic. Caring for elders, or even yourself, has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba-Sutter and Nevada counties.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe, with lessons, in person and personalized. Instruments including guitars and amps, horns, strings for instruments, and a myriad of music and sound equipment. Skip's Marysville Music Cafe.